Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is the second morning lecture of the day, week 1, day 1, web fundamentals. We're going to keep going over HTML rules and how it works for the rest of the hour before we break out into labs. Okay, so I wanted to show us a view of Wikipedia. And this is Wikipedia, not a very fancy page, right? It has everything sectioned off into different sections here. There is this area here, and it's closed off by its corners. It has this block here. We have this like title area. This is a section of its own. And there's different divisions on the page, right? And there's different styles of, it's very minimalized in style, but it's still there. We have black and blue as the text. These different header areas have different colors. This one's light blue. This one's green. And what would this Wikipedia page look like? What would it look like if it had no styling at all? If it was just bare bones HTML? Okay, so I'll show you guys what it would look like. It would look like a 90s website where there was no styling. So I'm not going to introduce how to do this right away, but I'm going to just do this for the sake of showing us what an HTML file looks like without any CSS. So if I right click on a web page and inspect, this is checking under the hood of the website. And this HTML page here is going to be just like any one that we build. It has that doc type HTML tag. You see that there? And then it has an HTML opening tag. It has a class with a bunch of stuff in it. Don't worry about what this stuff means, but it has an opening and closing HTML tag. It has a head and a body as well. So any web page that you visit is going to have this format that we're introducing. Doc type HTML, then we have the opening HTML tag, closing one, and then we have the head and body within. Okay, I'm going to open up the head, and I'm going to just start deleting stuff so that we can see what a page would look like without any CSS styling. So I'm going to disconnect the styling from the page. And we get this view here. Do you see how on the left-hand side at the top left, we have minimal, we just have lists, and it looks very bare bones of the Wikipedia page itself, how it just looks like text and links and dots and lists in that order without any styling. That's because I'm, well, deleting the styling, obviously, but that's because that's what HTML looks like without any styling. So if we remove the styling tags that HTML has that link it to the CSS and give that styling element to it, if we delete those, then we just have this bare bones HTML. And this is what we're going to be learning how to create initially, something that looks like this. Once we get to this point, then we can build on top of that and create the styling that would make it look like this, right? Something that makes it look organized into sections and have different color themes for each section, light blue or light green, and images that pop up with certain dimensions, defined dimensions. Do you see how this one is more vertical, this one's wide? That's because of the image size itself, but we can change how large or small the image should be, as well as give it its own section title. And this is, in Wikipedia itself, is not a very styled page. So this is, you know, what you can do with CSS and HTML all together. And okay, let me show you some JavaScript as well. Do you see how when I hover over a link, oh, it doesn't do it now because I deleted it. Let me refresh here. When I refresh, it gives me the original view. When I hover over a link, it gives me a little section area, a division where there's an image and text describing what that link is going to point me to. That's done with JavaScript. A div shows up on the page based on the response. If you hover over something, now something is going to pop up. If you do something, so now that's like an if statement, right? If you hover over, something is going to pop up and be created. And now that thing is created, there's a div block on our HTML that shows what should be said when you hover over. So that's the interactive part with JavaScript that I described earlier. Okay, so we're going to be creating websites that look dynamic and viewed like this. But before we do that, we have to create that bare bones look. Okay, we'll learn how to inspect a page in depth later on and how we can use that to our advantage. But I just wanted to show you guys that what we're teaching you here is fundamental across the web. Okay, all websites have that HTML file showing a head and a body. So what is the head and the body? Let me go to the right page. Oh, I'm on programming basics by accident. Okay. So what is the head and the body? These are the two direct descendant children of the HTML tag, and their purpose is different. Okay. The head tag contains important information that, as you saw there, the link to the CSS that gave the styling was in the head. I had to open up the head and delete it from there. So it contains links to other files that would make that file, this HTML file, even better. It has certain it's called meta tags. These meta tags, what they are, they tell the like when you do a Google search on something, what a meta tag can serve for is what is a description of your website to tell you that Google's search engine how to describe your website before someone clicks it, or it can tell us what the character set of our text is. In this case, the character set is UTF-8, which describes what kind of text that what we're working with, what language that we're working with. And it also contains the title. Okay, the title is this section up here. See right here. These are the titles for the web pages that they're describing. So intro to HTML, L, and then HTML here. This is the title for this entire web page, everything that you're seeing here. So this is title. And then we have a closing to our head. So we have a sectioned off area for what are specific to the head. And then we have the body. The body is where the content on the page that we see, that's where it actually goes. That hello world that we want to see on our page, that's what we're going to describe that in the body. Okay. As you can see, there's no opening and closing tag within the body's tags hello world. And then we're going to change that. That shouldn't be bare bones like that, but it would work. Okay, so the body has an opening and closing, and we're going to work within the opening and closing of the body tag to create our page. We're still going to build some stuff here on the head. We're going to link our different files, and we are going to create a title as well. The body's where we're going to work. Okay, so let's copy this over. Let's copy this code. I'm going to take it and build a page, an HTML page, and view it now. So I'm going to paste it here. All right, I've got that doc type HTML tag, head tag, hello world. Okay, let's put this in a p tag. Since we already know what a p tag is, it's a paragraph on our page. And what I want to do is right-click that index.html, and I'm going to say copy path. if I say copy path, open up a new tab in my browser, and in my search area, I paste and go to that place I copied, it will show me hello world. I can zoom in so that we can see this. This is at 100%, but I can zoom in. There it is. Hello world at 500%. It's just a p tag, so it will be small like a regular text on our page. So let's learn how to make different tags, how to create different elements on our page. But now we're able to see our HTML file, create a page that we can create content on now. Okay. So let's take a poll. How well are we understanding these new topics so far? Head and the body, what they contain, and how to view the result on a browser. And I recommend we all use Chrome as our default browser. I'm going to change this title from example to, I'm going to change this also to Hello World. Just because I can. And if I refresh my page right now, here's where the title is. I'm underlining it with that red pen.
And then can we see that in Visual Studio Code?
Yes. Here it is. The title is Hello World.
We can't see it still.
Oh, what are you not seeing my screen?
We only see the browser.
Oh, am I only sharing? Okay, sorry. Thought I was sharing my screen, not just the browser view. Okay, now do you guys see both?
Yeah.
Okay. Apologies for that. Okay, thanks for that, Vincent. So I've copied over the code from here. I've added in a p tag here in the body, the text hello world, and I've changed the title as well. So I'm going to underline here the previous title. I've now made my change. I've saved it. And so I'm going to refresh and let's see that change reflected. Now it's changed to hello world because I've changed what's in here, the title, and I've saved. Now when I refresh here, it'll tell me where I am. So because you couldn't see my Visual Studio before, I'll do the steps again. Sorry for not noticing that sooner. Okay, so if I right click index.html and I click copy path, I can open up a new tab. And if I paste and go here, that's what I am able to see so far of my web page. Just this p tag and the title as well. Hello world. Right there. Okay, so any questions on this so far? So far, we have a bare bones minimal HTML page that we're able to see. And we're able to see our content. Okay. So far, you know what? I'm going to take a poll to go along with that question. So far, what we've covered: changing the title, p tag, creating that index.html, and seeing that reflected on the browser. Okay, so you right click and you click copy path. You can paste that into your browser, and then you can see that change. Okay. There's also an extension you guys can add to Visual Studio now. If you go to extensions and you type in live server, this one here, this purple broadcast symbol. What this does is allows us to see any changes that we make reflected right away. So instead of having to refresh my page, it saves me that button click. So if I right click and I say open with live server, now the path here is a little different, and that's because it's checking for any changes that I would make. So as soon as I make a change and save it, so if I change this and save this, I should see that change in the browser reflected as well. So I'm going to say abracadabra, and I've saved it. So now here it is, the words I've typed on my browser without me having to refresh. So live server is an extension we can use to help us see our changes reflected right away. Sometimes we forget those little mistakes, like forgetting to save to see our changes reflected, or forgetting to name a file correctly. Just work slow and pay attention. Another thing about opening and closing tags is that you don't want to interlock them, right? So if I have two p tags here, one says hello world, and by the way, if you type in just P like I did, just the letter P, and then press tab right after you tapped it, or right after you typed it, so enter tab, and it will create the opening and closing tag for you if you've written it correctly. And then we'll put your cursor right in the middle of the opening and closing so you can start writing your text. So I'm going to write hello world here below my first p tag, and now we see two p tags stacked on top of each other, just as we see here on our HTML. Why they're stacked on top of each other and not side by side next to each other, we'll explain in a bit, but know that two p tags will stack on top of each other like that. And I wanted to show you guys something here. Okay. So the opening and closing p tags have to be individually wrapped. They cannot be interlocked. So I cannot take this opening one. I'm going to say right click and cut it out of its place. I can't paste it before this one ends like this. Well, when I paste it, it'll automatically create a closing one for you. VS Code interprets your opening and says, oh, you need a closing. So it adds one for you. So if I delete it, now this one has an opening and this one has a closing, but this opening one is in the wrong place because it's opening before this one is closed. So make sure your opening and closing tags are in the right place. I'm going to cut this back. I'm going to put this here. And if you open a p tag, like I said, as soon as I finish typing the closing caret, it'll interpret that I've created an opening one, so it's going to you're going to need a closing one, so it'll create it for me automatically. And sometimes that can be helpful, sometimes that can be annoying. Just be aware of it. That's what your Visual Studio Code is doing. Okay, and you can take off that feature if you don't like it. All right, we won't go too much into what that's about, but so far we are creating tags on HTML, introducing how they should be properly written. As you can see here, the space in the p tag, the opening space, I can indent and press enter as many times as I like. It's not going to change the view of it here. If I create the space in between, say I do that, now you can see a space between R and L, right? That's because I have it here as well. Okay. If you leave blank open spaces like this, it will not interpret it. So there's going to be other rules that you'll need to create separation between words like that. You cannot just design your page by how many spaces there are between words. So it's not going to arrange itself that way. You're not going to have a world way out here because there's spaces in between hello and world in this p tag. So we have to figure out another way to arrange the words on our page besides that way. And we'll do that now. But before we continue, well, actually, we won't do a poll yet. Let's just keep going. Okay, we've already talked about comments, but this is a comment. As you can see here, the syntax is opening caret, exclamation mark, dash, dash, and then your comment, and then dash, dash, and then the closing caret. All right, so we have the doc type HTML, we have the head has this meta tag, the title, the body has whatever we want to see on the page, and the closing HTML. So you're thinking to yourself probably, okay, I have to memorize how to build this from scratch, how to type all these, or I have a notepad where I have this saved, this template saved. Well, not exactly. I'll show you guys a shortcut here. So if you type in the exclamation mark, okay, above your 1, and then press enter, it'll have a template saved for you. It'll have a title created for you, a few extra meta tags for browsers to read. It scales for browsers to read, tells us the language that we're using here in the opening HTML tag, English. And you can create, start writing stuff in your body right away instead of having to create the whole HTML tag, opening, closing, header tag, opening, closing. You can go straight to the body if you type an exclamation mark, enter. Okay, here's our HTML boilerplate, so we can start working from here. Okay, and before we continue, now let's take a poll. How well are we feeling so far about what we've introduced? What goes inside the header, what goes inside the body, how to view it, the extension live server, and the shortcut to create a boilerplate. Okay, so now let's go over some common elements that we would see on our HTML page. First thing we'll note here is that there's going to be different style header tags. Okay, and this is going to be a lot of information that we're now introducing to you. The way to remember things is by remembering where you initially learned them. So I'll be referencing the platform plenty, so you guys know, like when you're trying to remember, what was that tag that I was trying to build that would create a header for me? Okay, you know, it's in the recording, I know that, but I also remember him picking from the platform, and I am. So you can go here as well whenever you get stuck and you need to remember what a specific rule is and how it works. Remember where you learned it initially here on the platform, and you can reference it. We're going to go over header tags. And header tags are headers on the page. They appear as large text to be a title over the content that they are introducing. 1 is going to be the largest, 6 is going to be the smallest. And as you can see here, these are the corresponding words to these tags on the left.
Quick question about the tags, Josh.
Yes.
With the headers, is there a reason you can't use the headers while at the same time using label, or is it because they kind of trump each other? Like I noticed when putting it through like the validate code thing, it said it didn't like labels with H1 or H2 and things of that sort? Is it just kind of like duplicating what it's already saying to do?
What do you mean by labels?
Like I saw in some of our Learn platform, there's like a spot where you can literally put like label for maybe like you're talking about a next section of like a title that you're like labeling out a section that you're about to do a list. And I
Mhm.
wanted to make that label bigger. So I thought label
Make it an HTML.
brackets and then H1 and then what I wanted to type and then
Okay.
H1 label. And it didn't like that. I was just wondering if there's a reason why.
There may be a couple reasons. For one, you only want to have one H1 tag per page. Okay. There's only one of the heading level 1 tag per page. And you know what? Your question asks, it begs a deeper question, right? Like, if you can style things on your page using CSS, why can't you just style a P tag to make it bigger and using an H tag that comes with the prepackaged size, right? Why can't you just customize the most basic thing? Why do you have to use different types of tags to describe a header when it looks all the same to the user reading the website? And the answer to that is because there's users of websites that use computers and use websites that may be visually impaired, and their devices read to them, this is a heading level 1 header. This is a P tag text that you're about to read, and it will read the contents. So for those text readers that go over the page, they need to have a designated tag so that they can, for accessibility reasons, for reasons of the law, be accessible to visually impaired users. So the headers have to have specific purpose on the page. You can't just use H1 for big text on the page wherever you like. You have to have one specific H1 at the top of the page, so the user knows, okay, this is at the very top, this is at heading level 1, so I'm at the very top of the page. So when you want to make like a label for your bullet point list to be a little bit bigger, then you have to add some styling to that specific label instead of using an H tag. That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's
Cool.
great.
Awesome. All right, so there's the header tags. They go from 1 to 6. All right, heading 1 is the one you don't want to reuse. Everything else you can reuse. And so let's see what this looks like on our page. I'm going to paste this in the body here and refresh. And these are my different headers. This is what they look like at the default view at 100% view on my browser. Okay, so headers. And we have about 10 minutes left here, so we'll try to go as quick as possible so we can cover as many different tags. Now that we get the concept of what tags do and what they are. We have P tags. We've already introduced these, so we don't need to introduce that. And then we also have an A tag. Okay, what an A tag is, it's A stands for anchor. An anchor from another website, right? So when you click that anchor, it leads you to that website. I think other websites have, as they are in the sea of the web, they leave their anchors in different places, and we can see where their anchors are on our web page. We can leave them as links to the other web pages. All right, so we have the opening and closing A tag. In between the opening and closing A tags is the text that we would see for the link. Inside this href, inside the opening of the A tag, it says href equals, and then in quotations, the destination of where that link would take us. Okay, so A tag always has to contain the href, which is where the link would take me when I click it to go to that place. So let's copy this and see what this looks like. Okay. So here now I have a link to the Learn platform. I click it, it takes me here. I'm going to go back. But now you can see it works like a link. Now you can create links on your web page to different places. You can imagine when you're creating your profile page, you can create links to your GitHub, your LinkedIn account, your different projects that can be viewed on different web pages. Here's a P tag that has some text in italics and some text in bold. The italicized text has the EM wrapping that specific word, and the bold text is wrapped by the strong tag within the P tag itself. Okay, so here is our P tag that has italicized and bold text. Okay, let's copy that. This video is for you guys later, and we'll go on to lists and tables. Before we go over that content, I'm going to paste this here and do a survey. How well do we feel so far about H tags, anchor tags, P tags, and how they have emphasized italics and bolden text? Strong.
Sorry, but I have one more question on that strong example.
Yes.
Was it just a continuation of like a line above it? Oh, it looks like Vincent just responded to me. I just couldn't see it, I guess, based off of the Zoom. It almost looked like on strong, there was no P in front of it.
Oh, well.
But it's because it's
indented.
continuation. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's indented. Yeah. All right. Nope. Good questions. No questions are bad questions. Okay, so then we also have lists and tables. Okay. We have two different types of lists, unordered lists and ordered lists. Do you remember on our Wikipedia site how we had that text with the bullet points? That would be, like I said, an unordered list. And inside the unordered list, we have the list items, and those are described by the LI tags. Each LI tag is a new bullet point within the UL. LI, a list item is dog, another list item is cat, another one dragon, another one monkey. An ordered list works the same way, except for instead of bullet points, it's going to give us numbers. We can adjust also the type of ordered list we'd like. If we want numbers, letters, Roman numerals, we can add some styling to that to change it. But for now, this is what our unordered lists and ordered lists do. Then we also have a table. A table is like a grid of information, right? It has the level, the row at the top that contains the headers. So that's described here. So we have our table for everything here in our table. And then we have TR to describe a row on our table. And then within that TR tag, within that row, we have 3 columns that we'll create. And we'll describe the header in those columns, movie, year, and ratings for this table, which shows us movie information. Okay, then in our following row, we have those 3 columns of information described by TD, table data. Table data shows us the data in the table. And then the following row shows us another row of data. Okay, so if I copy this, will it look exactly like this? No, it won't look exactly like that. We have to add some styling in order to get that to work. But we will have bare minimum view of a table. So here's our movies table. It has up 2009 PG matrix. And so here is the table. We have to add some styling to put that grid view on it, change the position of the row information, the cell information. But at the very minimum, that's what we can create with the table. Okay, and we talked about a little bit the parent-child sibling relationship. So let's talk about it a little bit more. In this table, we have two direct descendants, right? Two children, and everything within the children are its grandchildren. So the grandchildren are not direct descendants of the original table. Okay, so have that in mind. Well, there's a difference between descendants and direct descendants. The direct descendants of this table are the table rows. And we know that because they're within the table and they're the child at the very first level. Nothing is containing the table rows except for the table itself. We can't say that about the table header or the table data because they're contained by the table rows. So they're not direct descendants of the table. How this information comes into play later is going to be important. Just know that that's how it is. Okay, there's a system, a hierarchy of data that's organized, and it has to be in that hierarchy for us to have that view that we see on the page and to style it correctly. Yeah, and so any tags that are at the same level of the hierarchy, they're considered siblings. Okay, so how well do we feel about creating tables, understanding the hierarchy of parent, sibling, child tags on our page, unordered list, lists, and tables?
A quick question in regards to the parent-child sibling.
Yes.
One of the previous examples of text you had shown, like, I don't know if it was like a head or something, and then table, and they were on the same segment line.
Yes.
And then it broke down further and further.
Yes.
When that's the case, that head file or whatever label, is that the first parent and then table, if it's on the same lane, is that also parent, or is only the furthest outside one parent, even if they're in the same like column?
Okay, I think I have to view this here in order to see. So can you rephrase your question?
Say there's another segment above table on the left, and it's in the same column above that. Because one of the examples you had shown earlier had head, then table, then or something like that, and then another column like TR, and then another column. But
Yes.
head and table were under the same column. Does that make them both parents, or is only the furthest outside bracket one parent?
This one is the parent of the TR.
Mm-hmm.
The TR are the parents of the TD.
Yeah, no, I get that part. I'm saying earlier there was syntax that you had shown from something where table like using this example, there was another word and tag above table that was in the same column.
Same column? What do you mean?
Yeah, like,
can you
so
show your code, Josh?
Yeah.
Make it full screen.
Oh, I see. This here, this column of information.
no.
Like if you go to your Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
And can you make that full screen? So can we right click and format document? And if we scroll up a little bit near the top, like how body and head are on the same.
Correct.
Yeah, they're on the same
okay.
level. So they are
Yes.
siblings. If they're on the same level, they're siblings.
So does that make both of them parents to H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, or does it make only head a parent to the rest?
Right. So they go ahead. Go ahead, Vincent.
I was just gonna say that everything that head encapsulates, those are the children specifically to head.
Okay.
And body would be the parent to H1, H2, H3. And for those H elements,
okay,
they wouldn't be children to the head because they're not encapsulated by the head.
Because line 8, it breaks off. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. In human relations, the head would be the uncle, but that's not any rule in HTML. So that is not a descendant of the of the head. So it's not, it's child. Good question. I just didn't understand it. Good job, Vincent. Okay. Now let's go over images and videos. So how do we create an image on our page? Here's an image tag. This is how we do it. And as you can see, an image tag doesn't have a closing tag. Okay, so this is a different type of tag that doesn't have a closing tag, but it does have a slight difference to it. It has these two essential properties. The SRC, within the equal signs, we have the name of the file. This is where we will be putting in the file name that will show us the image that we're looking for. This alt describes what the image is, and in case for whatever reason the image doesn't show up, it tells us what this alt tells us what the image would be. It describes the image in case it doesn't load for some reason. It's also another place where visually impaired user can know what description of the image would be, right? Because they can't see it anyways. So if we copy this like this, right? This is looking for an image, a JPEG of a panda. So what will show on my page is a broken link tag. So let's create this underneath the table. Let's just continue our HTML page. I'm going to create this image tag, and because I don't have that image file on my computer, it's going to be broken, and that alt is going to show up instead. Let's say I want to get a panda image, right, from the internet. Let's do that. This one's good. All right, I can right click this, and I can say copy image address. This is one way to do it. I can copy the image address and I can paste it here in the SRC here. Now, so if I load my document, it's on my page now. There it is. So now we can add images to our web pages. This image is hosted on somebody else's computer on somebody else's website. I just took its location and put it inside the SRC here, and now I'm able to access it. It's in media.istockphoto.com, and it has this ID, so that's how I'm able to access this information. What happens if this website goes down? Can anyone tell me?
Your image goes away.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Crashes.
So if the link breaks, then your website breaks, and your image, your website's dependent on someone else's image. So let's save this image to our computer so that we don't have to do that. Okay, I'm gonna save it to. I'm going to go to the file location where I know my project exists. So I said it was inside. Let's see, going blank here. It was web fun. There it goes. May 2023. Then I go to my project. Now that I'm in my project, I'm going to create a new folder in here. I'm going to call it the images folder. And this is going to hold all the images that I save. Then I'll save it there. Okay. Now that I have it saved, I'm going to delete everything in here to start fresh. And now we have the images folder that we've created. It can be viewed in here on our Explorer on our Visual Studio Code. If I open this up by clicking this caret, here's my image. I can rename it by right-clicking it, click rename. I'll call it Panda. And now panda.jpg, excuse me, I'll put in this SRC. The way I can access this image folder and the file inside is by saying /. When I say /, it'll give me different locations that I can access at this specific file location that it index that HTML is in. So it can see, okay, I'm at the same level as this images folder. So this images folder I can access. So I can click here, then click this file location. And now let's reload our document. And there's no changes. No changes because now we've changed the location to be a local location. You can see here, if I delete it, it'll break. And if I undo, if I do Command Z or Control Z on your PC, you can see that view come up again. And that also works for videos. Video has a closing tag. The SRC has to be accurate to the MP4s. That's the file type for video. You can have that video file type saved on your computer, or you can access a video's location, just like I did the image. There's different rules you can add to your video to make it how you want the video to play when you first access your website. Do you want it to auto? Do you want the video to loop? Do you want it to be muted? Do you want it to auto play without the user clicking it? There's different rules that you can add in the opening video tag that will let you do that. All right, so I'm gonna start a new poll. How well do we feel like we're understanding how to create images and videos on our webpage? Okay. Here's something else I want us to note. Just a minute ago, when Vincent was helping me, he asked me to format the document in order for him to read, for us all together to read this HTML page a bit better. The reason he asked me to do that, well, he did that because we wanted to read it better anyways, but it was out of order, right? When we see children not aligned at the same level as their siblings, they're kind of out of order here, right? Like this one is not really straightly aligned. Maybe the table is not indented at the level of the child that it should be at the body related to the HTML. So this here now, we see our columns are not completely in order. We can fix that by right-clicking our HTML page and going to Format Document, this option here. This will straighten everything out. Right-click Format Document. That will align everything on our HTML file. Okay, so that gets the pretty view. And there are a few extensions that we could recommend that you would use. If you go to the extensions button, you can view, which one is the one that shows the pretty indent rainbow. That's what you're seeing here that shows a color scheme for each column, indent rainbow. This one here, indent rainbow. Okay. We want to indent for our own sake, right? So we can read our own text, right? In order to have a view of what we're working with, it has to be nicely organized. We don't want to see this here. When we're grading your code, this is going to be one of the requirements on the test to see that you indented properly. It's super easy to fix, right? Just right-click, Format Document. That's going to mark up your page so that it's completely indented at the right level. But no one wants to read something like this. That's why Jackie Chan is stressed. Okay. Do we have any questions relating to indentation or anything that we've covered up to this point? All right. Well, there are a lot more HTML rules. We will cover the rest of the rules this afternoon in this afternoon's demonstration. We'll go over the rest of the rules and we'll create a demo page for us to see how we would create a, mimic a wireframe of something that we want to. create either for like an assignment or a test. So I'll create my own mock assignment that I will complete just with HTML after we introduce the rest of these HTML rules, right? So now we've created content that we can view on our page, links, headers, p tags, images, tables. We also want to receive information. So we'll be going over that form information again next lecture hour. So let's take a look at the schedule. That's what we'll be going over at 2. I'll demo a mock example project, as well as go over what forms do, how they should work. Okay, so we're going to break out into groups now. We'll create rooms for each of these assignments: push to GitHub, dictionary entry, fix indentation, registration form, and portfolio content. You guys should all have that push to GitHub assignment completed today. We all worked on GitHub for a couple hours last Friday. We should have no problem doing that GitHub assignment today, even though it's practice. And any of our links for our projects now, we can make them GitHub pushes, right? We want those green dots so that we can have our portfolio look nice and clean when we're applying for a job. The more green dots we see as activity for pushes, for projects that you've created in the dojo, that's the more that a potential employer can see how much you're growing as a developer, how much you're developing, so on and so forth. Okay, so we should all be pushing to GitHub at the individual folder level for each assignment. Okay, so at the end of the day, goal is push to GitHub, dictionary entry, fix indentation, registration form, portfolio content. If you finished all this, go on to the reading for tomorrow so that you can have that higher level of the pulse at the pulse check when we're going over CSS tomorrow. Okay, and if we have no further questions, I'm here checking the chat to see if we have any other questions. If you have no questions, we'll stop the lecture and we'll break out into groups now.
Hey, Josh, I have a quick question.
Yes, James.
Just by looking at the schedule, is our lunch 2 hours?
Nope. We have an open lab. Oh, no, it should be 1 hour. And at 1, when you return at 1.
Okay, great.
You go back to work on your assignment. And
Okay.
we meet at 2. I just don't have it marked 1 open lab. So I assumed you would just take an hour lunch. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so right, we'll be in our rooms. If you have any questions, I'll create the groups now. I'll stop the recording.